Welcome, everyone. My name is Nick Gazer. I'm the CEO for the Soil Science Society of America, and I really appreciate you joining in this afternoon for this town hall to focus on strategic planning. This town hall, I really want to thank you again for coming together and helping to provide input into the strategic planning process. I'm joined from the presenter position with Ole Wendrath, your president, and then also with Susan Chapman helping out to facilitate and moderate the webinar, the town hall, as we're working through it today. As I think we're having a few more people jump on, just some introductory comments. You have the ability to provide questions and comments both through the questions feature and the chat feature through GoToWebinar. So please, at any point in the presentation, submit your questions, your comments, and we're really looking forward to your input into this process. Throughout the town hall this afternoon, we'll have three main sections. The first section will be focused on the process, the background, how have we gotten to this point in time with our strategic planning, and what can we expect for the outcomes or the vision of where we would go with the strategic planning process. The second section will be focused on the strategies specific to the Soil Science Society of America that would be aspirational in nature, higher level statements, strategies that we would be working on collectively. And then the third section will be focused on objectives very specific to soil science as well, that we'll walk through one by one. In between each of these three sections this afternoon, we'll have a break point where we'll take anywhere from 5 to 7 minutes or so, depending on time and discussion, to really listen to your input, to go through any of the questions submitted ahead of time, or questions submitted throughout the town hall, and to have that discussion at those points in time as well. As we wrap up the town hall at the end of the hour, we'll talk about next steps and ask for your input, your engagement, and really your ownership of the strategic planning process and the strategic plan document as we move forward. So with that, I will move to the first slide. And maybe before I jump too far into this plan structure, Ole, if you wouldn't mind jumping in and providing a few comments on the strategic planning process up to this point and what you're finding exciting about it and where we might be going.
Yeah, thank you very much, Nick. Good afternoon. I'm Ole Wendrath, your president, and I'm happy to co-chair this town hall meeting with Nick to inform you, but also to get your input. And at the very first beginning, I'd like to point out that from the beginning on, a year ago, the people who were involved in the strategic planning had very firm on their mind that a strategic plan of the society the heartbeat of the strategic plan is our members. And so let me give you a short background. About a year ago, we were beginning this planning process that was with about monthly telephone calls of a committee. And for the first time in the history of our three societies, this committee was composed of the board members of all three societies. And one of the first target points was a joint meeting of all three boards at a location that was in Florida, where we had a 2-day session where we discussed this plan. But before we came to Florida, we had, as I said, we had many of these telephone calls, conference calls. And you may remember, I think it was in about late April or early May, Susan Chapman sent to you a member survey where we wanted to hear your ideas about what is important to you and what do you see as very important for the society. And that was a very important starting point for us, because that was the initiation for defining the grand challenge. And I'm sure we'll talk about the Grand Challenge in a few minutes. And so start was spring 2019, and then we had the Tri-Society board meeting, and that was the initiation of our strategic discussions. So thank you so far, Nick.
Thank you, Ola. And I will provide, again, in this first section, a little bit more background. And as we're going through the plan structure, this plan structure is being shared. It is pretty common across ASA, Crop Science, and Soil Science Society in terms of the overall structure for the document. The individual language, the background diagnosis, the strategic planning approach, the vision, the mission, the strategies, all the components that would flesh out these structural elements are very specific to Soil Science Society. The one change that we've made, or the most substantial change we've made into the plan structure this time around with our strategic planning is around the cross-society objectives. And that's the last element you see of the bolded topics here on the screen. These are areas, objectives that would be worked on consistently and collectively across the three societies, where it would make sense to share resources and leverage strengths across each of the three societies. And today, for our discussion, we'll be focusing on the elements up to from the background and diagnosis to the society-specific objectives. The cross-society objectives, we'll defer those to next month, just due to the limited duration of time we have this afternoon. We wanted to first focus our conversation on the strategies and objectives specific to Soil Science Society, and then next month to collectively talk about the cross-society objectives. As we're going through this process, there are many different drivers, inputs, and tactics that we're utilizing to pull together this strategic planning process. First, the main driver has been our membership, as Ola mentioned, and with the board leadership and direction as representatives from across the Soil Science Society, we're utilizing the board leadership to set the direction and based on the surveys from the members and the input from members going forward. We have many different inputs into the strategic planning process. We do have the board members, as Ola mentioned, and along with that, which is critical to this process, are thinking to the members and certified professionals across Soil Science Society of America, that with our members' input, we're going to make this the strongest strategic planning process possible. And this won't be a one and done approach to hear and listen and engage and hopefully help our members to take ownership in this process, that this will be an iterative process, that the strategic planning document in itself is intended to be a living, breathing document, and that as we move forward, this will be part of regular conversations at multiple levels throughout the society, hopefully all levels throughout the society, and it will create many different doors to open to welcome members into leadership positions or other positions of engagement. In addition to that, this time around, we've taken an external perspective as well. And we've conducted a landscape or operational business analysis to ask what's happening around the Soil Science Society of America that could influence our discussions, our decisions, and where we go. And along with that, we're engaging external partners and collaborators to help provide inputs as to what they see as important and opportunities for the Soil Science Society going forward. As I mentioned, your input into the process is critical. And you'll see as we go through the strategies and objectives today, they are still in draft form and still very much open for your input and discussion. And in several instances, we really need your input. Actually, most of the instances, we really need your input to help refine what those strategies are and the intent behind the objectives as well. So with that, we have several tactics where you can engage, and we'll come back to this at the end of the webinar. Reaching out to your board members is definitely an option here. And along with that, we have discussion boards. These are relatively new, but these are great boards, great discussion boards. It's a great tactic to utilize to create an ongoing discussion around specific topics. We've already posted the landscape analysis document to the discussion board, and we'll follow up with the strategies and objectives we're talking about here today to the discussion board specific to the Soil Science Society. In addition to that, we're utilizing our social media channels for engagement. we're using we've used historically in-person town halls at the annual meeting and surveys as well, as Ola mentioned, and we're going to continue on with both of those tactics. And in this case, we're going to follow up with a number of virtual town halls as well. So this isn't the only town hall that we're having. We had one last month in March that focused on the landscape analysis, and we're going to continue forward for the next several months to hopefully solicit your input and really help you to take ownership in the process. As additional background and as to where we're going, and Ola, I'll definitely I'll ask you to jump in here as well, because as many of you know, I've been with the societies as a member for about 14 years, but in this position as CEO, I've been here about 4 months. And so Ola definitely will represent more of the institutional knowledge on the historical perspective, and even to the June meeting last year, where many of these ideas came to connect together. But historically, each individual society had their individual plans, and there would be implementation steps carried out by the access staff. And this time around, what we're looking at is still having that be the case, where we have independent societies having independent plans, but we've introduced this element of cross-society objectives in ways that we can work together, common elements that would make sense for us to work together on. This could be some publications, it could be our annual meeting, could be a number of different things that make sense and are guided by you as members, and then to work towards implementation. And as I mentioned, in that implementation process, that we need to retain the right for flexibility and review. That in this process, every 6 months, we'll be reviewing the strategies and the objectives and our progress towards those strategies and objectives in a very transparent way. And we'll ask for your input, and we'll be engaging the board members to help assess progress using very tangible and quantifiable metrics, both quantitative and qualitative metrics or analytics to assess progress. And we're also going to retain the right to be flexible, to respond and to adapt to opportunities or challenges that come our way, such as this current circumstance we're under with COVID-19. This is creating the need for us to flex and to change our work environment, and that's the kind of flexibility we need in the strategic plan as well. And Ole, maybe if I may, it'd be wonderful if you could jump in here to help talk about this process that we're going through now, and also the connection to the Grand Challenge.
Yes, I'd be happy to. Thank you, Nick. So this Grand Challenge, my colleague Sylvie Broder from the Agronomy Society called it an umbrella goal. Most of you know it. I just want to quickly read it here one more time so that we all know what we are talking about. It was defined at that meeting in Florida among all 3 societies. It is drive soil, plant, water, environment systems solutions for healthy people on a healthy planet in a rapidly changing climate. You may say, well, this is what we do every day, and this is not very specific and so on. Yes, we know that. That is why it is called an umbrella goal and why it is a grand challenge. And now, at this point, we ask you as members to fill in this frame. And this whole grand challenge is as distinct as necessary, but it needs to be as flexible as possible. A plan is only a plan. So this strategic plan can be formulated now, but it is a living document, and it is filled with life through your actions. And I would say, like Nick mentioned, so I've been a member since 1990, and I've seen so many changes in our society going on, and so it is really a vibrant society. And the current crisis and all of your response, be it either in research or in a teaching position or in a consulting position, you were able to adapt so quickly to this new situation. So this is really a testimony for the flexibility of our members and for all your discipline and your intelligent adaptation. So with this, we now need to fill in details. And I want to mention one more thing about this landscape analysis. At the very first beginning, when I heard that term for the first time, I couldn't really well understand what does this imply. And so in order to clarify that a bit, so we wanted at the beginning of this process, and that was one of Nick's first actions when he came on board in headquarters, we as a society need to identify with all that expertise that we have, who needs our knowledge and what are the problems that we have right now or that we can derive the solution for in the future. And who are our partners that we need to team up with for creating these solutions. We can't do that as a society out of ourselves. We need to see who really depends on us and who needs our big expertise that is spread across the entire nation. So those are my thoughts on these, especially on this slide with the implementation of the strategic plan. And thank you, Nick.
Thank you, Ole. And for everyone, please have your questions ready. I'll just make a couple more comments, and then we'll open it up to your thoughts and perspectives as well. And as we go forward, again, there are a couple different elements that are new this time around for the strategic planning. The landscape analysis is a new initiative. These cross-society objectives are new, and the grand challenge itself is new this time around. What we want to mention or what I would like to mention here as well is that we don't want to lose focus as to where we've been as we're thinking about these new elements. That the independence of Soil Science Society going forward is incredibly important, but there are these connectivity points to create and hopefully amplify the impact and influence of Soil Science Society to address many different issues across society today. So with that, I would like to open it up to any of your comments and considerations, and then we can go into these expected outcomes a little bit more. Susan, are there any comments or considerations or comments or questions at this point?
There are a couple of questions. One of them is that you referenced partnerships. What kinds of partnerships could help us, and who would we turn to?
Sure. So as I guess both Ole and I had mentioned, there are many people that need our actually Ole just mentioned that there are many people that need our influence, our scientific expertise, our guidance at several different levels, and this could be in the policy sphere, political influence, and this will come through as we read through the strategies and the objectives. This could be also in the broader industry space, in the agricultural food supply chain space, but very importantly also in the environmental science space as well. What are the interactions between production elements and environmental quality, and how can we better leverage the science that we as members or certified soil science consultants could bring to the table. I will move here. I was a bit out of order. I'm apologizing for that. So I'll open it up to additional questions after walking through this a little bit more. And Ole, I'd welcome your thoughts on the expected outcomes as well. But both from an internal perspective and an external perspective, there are a number of expected outcomes that could come about through the strategic planning process. And I think it is helpful to keep a line of sight towards what these expected outcomes could be, both from the internal and external perspectives. From the internal perspective, it's this focus on strategic intent. And what that means is having the focus and consistency and flexibility in defining what's important to us from a strategy and objective level, but also how do we carry it out at the tactical level and connect those elements in review and track progress to know that we are making change. And along with this, there are a number of different elements that will fold up into that. First and foremost, thinking about inclusivity and diversity on multiple levels, taking systematic approaches to inclusivity and diversity to broaden many different aspects of the society. It's also thinking towards a culture of innovation and taking tangible steps towards that culture of innovation and feeding off of membership and certified professional energy to help us advance. Really, as Ole mentioned, you are the heartbeat of the society, feeding off of your energy to create the change and enhance what's ongoing. And there are many different business elements we can think to: our governance process, our business stability, our financial security, and how we can support different functions of the organization going forward internally. And part of this is internal, but the external perspective is also thinking towards recognition and connectivity. Are people aware of who we are and what we do? And are they recognizing the importance of the work we do and the ways that our science and the advancement of that science could connect to improve many different aspects of society? And this ties into the influence space. How can we connect and influence many different sectors? These are just a number of them here, and it could extend beyond the list, beyond policy, industry, conservation space, the broader public space, to think about the impacts and document impacts to agricultural and environmental science outcomes. And from the external perspective, we can think to that partnerships question that Susan asked earlier that came from you. Who are the most effective partners to help leverage and bring together differential skill sets for the advancement of the society going forward? And this also connects to the broader public and increasing science literacy, which hopefully would turn into increased support for science and development across our broader global community. So I apologize for going out of order there a little bit, but Susan would welcome it up, open it up to questions again for a few minutes here.
Sure, and we do have a few more. Is it assumed that the cross-society objectives are not in conflict with any of the individual societies' objectives?
That's a good question. So that is an assumption, and it's still a work in progress right now. And what we are looking for from the board and from you as members is to work together to define very strong, to first define strong society-specific objectives. And then after that is strengthened in the first priority, then we would work to the cross-society objectives. At this point in the process, we're still prioritizing what the Soil Science Society specific objectives are. And then similarly, we're prioritizing what the best cross-society objectives are right now as well. We have a very solid starting point for the society-specific objectives and the cross-society objectives, but we're still working through the prioritization process, and that's where your input will be very helpful in this process. And yes, we want to make sure that the society-specific and the cross-society objectives are not in conflict with one another, but hopefully could be complementary to one another. But Ole, would you have any thoughts on this comment or this question as well?
Yes, thank you, Nick. Yes, I agree. I think this is a very important question, and it is right on the nail of recognition and connectivity. We have, in these strategic planning discussions, we have discussed within the Soil Science Society a lot the perception, the different tendencies and interest. And our special role in this construction of three societies is that we not only have a say in agricultural aspects of soils and the environment, we have also a very strong expertise and say and demand for our work in non-agricultural fields. So we need to bring that together. And I must say that our two partner societies respect us in that sense, that we have our own things that they are probably not so much part of it. So I would like to stress the point that in communicating our goals, we have to find paths that allow us to being heard. And during last year, and unfortunately due to the travel ban, not in this year, but during last year, I had a chance to be at several occasions for science advocacy in DC, and I think there's a very open door for agricultural questions, and certainly also for non-agricultural questions. Climate change is not only regarding agriculture and other geoscience related problems, water quality problems. That is not only agriculture, that is a different field. So we need to use any opportunity, any possibility to communicate the importance of the expertise of our membership. And the question whether a society-specific objective goes into another direction or is counterproductive to a cross-society objective, that is right now I can think of such an objective, but I would say we have as many objectives as necessary, and you, the members, you create the objectives and you create how you fill these objectives later with actions. And at this step, I don't see, or I'm not afraid that the objectives well stated in our own society that they would go strictly and clearly against the objectives of all three societies. So I'm rather optimistic that the multitude of society-specific objectives and cross-society objectives will have a fruitful outcome. I don't see that we are in that danger at the moment. So I would like to leave it with that here, and I'm happy to continue the discussion about this question on another platform through email or any other path.
Thank you, Ole. And I would offer again, just as you just mentioned, Ole, that this conversation, we only have an hour here today, but there are going to be many different ways for you to connect and to follow up, or for us to follow up with you on next steps. So in regards to the questions, we are short on time, so I will move to the strategies, but I would offer again that if there are any questions we don't get to that are submitted by you all this afternoon, we will follow up individually, and then we can work to address those questions via discussion boards and other tactics there as well. So this is a short amount of time, but this conversation is definitely ongoing, and would welcome your input along the way and well into the future. So with that, I'm going to move to the next section focused on strategies, and this section in itself is broken up into two pieces itself. So the first are looking at external strategies, and I'll read through these. And then we have the internal strategies, and so I'll read through these twice because there is a lot of text here. And then Ole and I maybe could provide a little bit of context to these strategies, just a brief statement or two, and then we'll open it up again to your thoughts and your comments, your questions, areas of emphasis and areas of concern across these strategies. What's here, what's not here. Really are looking forward to your input on the strategies, both from the external perspective and the internal perspective. So first, on the external perspective, just reading through these, the first one is focused on increasing engagements internally, externally, domestically, and globally to develop transdisciplinary solutions to existential global threats. The second external strategy, so this is again where we connect with those outside of the society, would be to explore and develop an enhanced service and financial model to support SSSA for improved new and existing research, develop and professional soil science support structures that will improve soil-related ecosystem services, such as provisioning, regulating, and cultural ecosystem services. So intended to be broad there. The third external strategy would be looking at promotion and influence, increase efforts to inform and educate political officials for improved utilization of soil science in public policy. And this can take several different forms at the in DC, as Ola mentioned, but also at the state level or other levels of public policy as well. And then our fourth external strategy is looking at enhancing higher education institutions, STEM, soil science to advance awareness and training of the importance of soil science to society, the environment, and the planet. I'm going to jump to the internal strategies, and then we'll come back very briefly before we open it up for questions, just to repeat these. From the internal perspective, it's looking at new frontiers in soil science publications, leveraging latest in partnership. So right now we do have a Wiley partnership that we can look to fully leverage for marketing and engagement strategies to improve reach and impact of our publication outlets and science to support and provide societal solutions. The second internal strategy is looking at improving diversity and inclusiveness across SSSA to enhance creativity, innovation, and impact of soil science solutions to societal environmental issues at different scales. So again, intended to be inclusive and broad in that statement, but I think there's definitely more we can do on both of these. And so just going back to repeat quickly, the first external strategy is looking at increasing engagement at multiple levels, internally, externally, domestically, and globally for solutions. The second one, external strategy, is looking at exploring and developed enhanced service and financial models. So this is really to the business model and member support model, or in certified professional support model going forward, to thinking who else needs our science, as Ola mentioned earlier, who else can we engage with. The third one is promotion and influence in the political policy realm for education and information. And the fourth external strategy is around higher education, institution, STEM, soil science awareness and training. Again, from the internal perspective, looking at new frontiers in publication, enhancing partnerships to the fullest extent, and then improving diversity and inclusiveness across SSSA for many reasons. So let me pause here. Hopefully you're still submitting your comments and questions to Susan. And Ole, before we return to Susan, would you have any quick comments on the external or internal strategies before we take the comments or in questions from the members?
Yeah, I'd just like to mention from that previous expected outcome slide, there was a mentioning of financial security, and here we talk about a financial model. I want to make sure you understand that we have not turned into a profit organization, but we have to generate income on one end in order to provide many services that profitable agencies or companies would not be able to do that. So we have many educative programs, webinars, we have information that does not generate any income, but we do not want to drop that because of this fact, but we want to maintain it as a service to our membership. That is why we stress this point of financial security and the enhanced service and financial model so much. And yeah, so with science publications, you have all seen it, and some of you may be aware of this OSTP request for open access publications. It is very important that the information, the strong scientific information that you generate with your publications, that is available to as many people as possible. Of course, in the past, we could access that information through our institutional purchases of through our libraries, but that model will change now. So we need to find ways of producing open access information, while we do not let that the publications as a revenue source siege. So that is a very strong concern, and that is not done yet, by far not. So that will drive our discussions and thoughts a lot in the near future. Thank you.
Thank you, Ole. And Susan, maybe I'll turn it over to you for any questions or comments that are coming in.
Yes, we do have several questions and comments that have come in, and I'll just remind everybody, you can enter any questions or comments that you have in the question section. So April Ulrey is on the line and points out that both of the internal strategies are good examples of cross-society objectives.
That's a great point. Yeah, these are areas, both the publications partnership that we have with Wiley and improving diversity are areas that we gain strength in working together across the societies to achieve.
And then another question is, how do we take the next steps towards promotion and influence to inform political officials for improved use of soil science?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think we have a number of first, it's looking at what we already have in place. So Congressional Visits Day, the Congressional Fellowship, and other areas like that. But then it's to taking the next steps. It's asking about political activation across our membership. What are ways that we can get engaged and provide resources for DC, but also what's important to you as members locally? Are there ways that we can help provide quick guides, kits, or political activation kits, or otherwise for you to engage locally, helping to publish numbers and other ways to influence and impact not just what's happening in DC, that's very, very important, but also what's happening and moving on a state-specific level. And actually, right now, and what we've seen over the last several years is that a lot of the action and movement that's occurring across the country politically is happening at the state level and then moving up to the federal level. So this is an area that's evolving for sure, but we can take steps to better coordinate, inform, and activate, work together to activate political action within your states as well. But it does take resources, and that's a consideration point.
And another question.
Ollie, would you have any thoughts?
Oh, sorry.
Sorry. Go ahead, Susan. Go ahead.
Okay. In the last year or two, consulting soil scientists have participated, and I feel this needs to be a greater focus in the strategy. We are missing out on a larger segment of industry for membership and enhancing our goals. Your thoughts?
Ole, would you want to jump in on that one first?
Yeah. Thank you for this comment. I can only say the concerns of the professional soil scientists are taken extremely serious, and in every board discussion, in any discussions about steps to take, the non-academic soil scientists play a very important role. So we appreciate your reminder of this, and we ask you for continuing reminding us if you think your goals are not well enough represented. We are keen on being informed if you feel not sufficiently considered. We appreciate very much that the professional soil scientists are part of all kinds of events of our annual meetings. You're represented at our board of directors, and I remember the members from your group participating in the Congress visit day. So please Please keep it up. And we are aware that right now at this time, spring season, a lot of things need to be done in the field, and you are out there. You are doing the very important work. I don't want to give you nice words here, but we realize how important your contribution is, and your actions are instrumental in informing the public about the importance of soils. The work you are doing outside of any classroom or research context, you are doing it in the field. You talk to NRCS, to farmers, to consultants. You help them, so that is greatly appreciated. But please keep us informed if you feel not sufficiently recognized. Thank you.
I would second all of that and offer that this is where I've been actually as a member in the past in the consulting world and in the non-academic world, practicing soil science in several different roles, and I would offer that. But yes, I think we as the society can be more inclusive and have a focus on partnerships and delivery of services to the industry space, as well as a couple other sectors as well, to enhance what we're doing from both the internal and external strategy perspectives. Going forward, we know there's a great need. There are many scientists, not just in academic roles, but in many types of roles that could benefit from our engagements. We do have some discussions ongoing internally to develop concepts around more recurring processes to bring in and welcome thoughts and direction from consulting soil scientists and other non-academic sectors, non-academic potential members or sectors that could be represented in soil science. So this could take the form of listening groups, focus groups. It could be another number of different means to gather input, and then to back that up with action. I think that's key to this as well. We need to not only listen, we need to collectively decide what the best actions are going to be, and then hold ourselves accountable to those actions going forward. So I really appreciate this comment or question, and look forward to not only listen to you, but to the broader opportunities here going forward, and please continue to provide your input going forward. I think, Susan, with this, I'm going to transition to the objectives, just given the time. And again, these questions and comments coming in are excellent. Keep them coming in. If we don't get to your question during the short amount of time that we have this afternoon, we'll definitely be following up individually and via the discussion boards. And we'll have an email coming out after this webinar with the links to all the discussion boards and other documents that have been referenced here. So moving to the objectives, just again in the tight time we have here this afternoon. The first this will be similarly broken up between external objectives and internal objectives. The first from the external Soil Science Society specific objectives from the external component would be thinking about meeting or looking closely at meeting partnerships, expand influence and impact of soil science through multidisciplinary science, through joint meetings with other scientific and professional societies. The second one would be placement of members in decision-making roles of emerging and traditional positions of influence, funding agencies, and foundations. And our third from the external perspective would be increasing educational opportunities, both the number and type, in soil health advisement, assessment, and monitoring. From the internal objectives perspective, we have an internal focus on improving journal performance and evaluation criteria. And then this is the second one is definitely an area of need for you. Actually, all of these are represent areas of need for you to provide input. But we have a second objective focused on membership, and there are a couple that have been. And this is an area where we've pulled from both society-specific language and the cross-society objectives for prioritization. And again, your input here is critical. We have a couple different options that we could state for membership, looking at developing, piloting, and launching a career-long professional development program, and or inclusion and diversity, increase service to underrepresented scientists, increase the representation in soil science society. And or the third option would be looking at membership needs and services, improve membership service offerings, satisfaction, and engagement. And across all of these objectives, there is a lot of detail going into the implementation strategies, those actions that would be following up to meet these objectives. And that's, again, as Ola mentioned earlier, where your input would be tremendously beneficial, and we're going to be working as we finalize these objectives to send out invites to welcome you in to help guide this forward. So again, from the external perspective, we had meeting partnerships, expanding the influence here, and this can be in many different organizations, science society, other science societies. This could be different sectors that could be brought in to work together. The second one is placing members in decision-making roles of emerging and traditional positions, and then increasing educational opportunities in soil health advisement, assessment, and monitoring. And then the internal perspective is looking at journal performance and evaluation, and a focus on membership from lifelong or career-long professional development, inclusion and diversity, and or membership needs and services, improving membership service offerings, satisfaction, and engagement. So Ola, before we open it up again to comments and questions, would you have perspectives to offer on the objectives, both external and internal?
Yes, I'd like to briefly say, as an example, one of the specific internal objectives we had, improve journal performance and evaluation criteria. You may ask yourself, how can I do that? So I think it is of essential importance that you keep publishing your work in our society's journals. And even if sometimes the publication process is a little slower than maybe in another online open access journal, our society journals, and especially our Soil Science Society journals, stand for quality, and that quality has been fostered over decades. So members submit good articles. That is the essential thing. You do good research, and then you can submit it in and get it published in our journals. And do not let a tedious and sometimes harsh review process repel you from that. I know it is sometimes tough to get a paper published, and sometimes we may even face first a rejection and then have to rework it thoroughly and then resubmit. But all that contributes to the high standing of our journals. And just to give you a few examples, we have this tremendous Soil Science Society of America journal that you see. And besides that, years ago, out of our society, we had the Wadozone Journal founded, and that did not take away at all from the Soil Science Society of America journal. We increased the publication volume tremendously. That is due to your creativity, to your excellent research you're doing. And another example, a little older than that, look at our Methods of Soil Analysis book. My goodness, that puts a few pounds on the balance. But if you look through it, there's so much knowledge, and I am very proud that we, as the Soil Science Society, we have such a big and complete compendium of methods. So that reflects our standing, and that reflects your spirit, your dedication to your profession, and that helps us to be strong in these external objectives, that we meet partnerships, we show who we are, we have something to say, and we can contribute our as individuals, we can contribute our disciplinary knowledge very well to transdisciplinary efforts. And let me add to that. The past 3 months have shown how important science is. We are right now at a tipping point here. You have noticed, or you can see it on a daily basis, the high-level policymakers, they have to listen to medical scientists, to virologists, to epidemiologists. Look at that. We are in a unique situation now. We just need to transform that into our discipline, and I think we have something strong to provide to our policymakers. I'd like to stop with that and rather hear more comments from our audience. Thank you.
Thank you, Ole. Susan, do we have comments and questions coming in from the audience?
We do have several, yes. One of them is, what does a career-long professional development program look like? And what types of membership service offerings could be combined with this?
So Susan, I might pull you right into this question in a minute, because you've definitely taken a number of steps for leadership development, and I think that's a core element to a career-long professional development process. But what I would also offer would be to think about, or for us to listen and learn together to ask individual members at different stages of their careers what would be beneficial to them in preparing for the next steps, and then to use some creative thought as to putting together the programs that would be specifically tailored to individuals at different career points, whether they're brand new to soil science or have been in soil science for many years. What are those specific professional development opportunities that could be strung along, connected together, really, not only for society business, but really that would be a benefit to the individual members in their personal and professional lives. What are things we could offer there? And similarly within membership services, and I know Susan does this a lot, and it has some great information, and it's put together some excellent packages here, but there are always opportunities for enhancing how we ask members of different career stages, but also different professions, but perhaps evaluate putting together different types of packages for individual members in different situations. But Susan, I'd love to pull you in, because this is definitely an area of focus for you as well.
Thanks, Nick. Yeah, I think especially around the whole professional development program piece, looking at, what does developing leadership capacity for each person look like, all the way from our K-12 programs, getting people interested in soil science, taking them through their undergrad and then grad careers, helping them transition into their early careers, whatever that might look like. And then how do we, help transition them into management and leadership roles that way. And then all the way through retirement. Examples are through our career development series of webinars that we did last year. So really looking at how do we build that. And as you said, it's both personal, professional, for the societies, for society in general, and for their careers. So.
Thanks, Susan. Are there additional comments, questions coming in?
Yes, actually, there are a few more. Get back to this. Both Ole and Nick mentioned some of the differences among industry and consulting versus academia. The inclusive actions need to be incentives to be members of the societies, awards, blogs, CEU type courses, and other similar opportunities for this community that make everyone want to join, participate, and attend the annual meetings.
Ole, do you want to respond to that comment coming in, or was there a question along with that comment?
It was a comment.
Okay.
Yeah, I'd like to.
Ole, do you want to respond first?
To very briefly respond to that, I can only say amen to that. Yes, we want all different directions of soil scientists participate in our annual meetings. And we have, for all different categories, we have awards. Not every member is eligible for every award, but we have awards in the different categories. Well, thank you.
I would agree. I think there are many different options that we can put together to market and make the services we offer attractive to many different types of members or potential members, I should say, whether they're in industry, political positions, the civil society sector, the broader public sector, the conservation sector, or otherwise. I think there are many different opportunities to bring people together and bring people in. So I would strongly support that as well. I am looking at the time, and what I'll do is maybe continue on with the next steps. Again, to any of the questions we didn't get to answer here, we will follow up, and we will send a follow-up email for some links, and we'll respond to you directly with your comments and questions, and really look forward to your consistent or your continual input into this process. We really need it to help guide where we're going as a society, because as Ola mentioned very appropriately earlier, you are the heartbeat of the society, and you're the reason we're doing what we're doing here. So next steps in terms of where we go next. First, in terms of engagements, there are a number of different places where we would very much welcome and ask your input into this process. First, in thinking about representation and leadership across the society, what's written here is to engage your board members. Certainly do that, but also engage leaders at every level across the society to represent your thoughts, your perspectives in this strategic planning process. But don't stop there. We also have the discussion boards, and again, the links for the discussion boards will be sent out after this email or after this webinar or this town hall. We've already posted the landscape analysis document that's been referenced earlier in the conversation to the discussion board for you to download, to look through, and help to provide input into this process. We also have our social media channels that'll be running some content specifically focused on the strategic planning to gather your input, and definitely please use those. This is not only Twitter and Facebook, but LinkedIn and other channels there as well. And as always, our headquarters staff, whether it's in DC or main headquarters in Madison, Wisconsin, don't hesitate to reach out to us. We have dedicated staff here, and this is well, I've only been on board for 4 months. I've been incredibly fortunate to inherit an excellent staff who's incredibly responsive and just amazing experts in a lot of different areas. And please feel free to reach out to them. They'll make sure your voice is heard, and we connect your voice to the strategic planning process and help you engage in these other areas as well. And then on next steps in terms of the timeline, right now we're in the April-May timeline. We're asking for input from across members. The board members are also providing time and attention to the strategic planning process and thinking about prioritization to the objectives and those cross-society objectives. Again, we'll talk about the cross-society objectives next month in the next town hall. As we move to June, we're going to have a virtual, looks like we'll more than likely be having a virtual spring board meeting. The decision is coming up here soon within the Soil Science Society board to make that decision, but just given the circumstances we're under, it's looking like things will probably be moving that direction with travel restrictions. But that is yet for decision. But we'll be talking about specifically the strategic plan, moving that to a point of completion and approval to help us move toward the implementation steps. And throughout not only the approval leading up to that, and then especially at the implementation level, your engagement is critical again. To help define the specific actions that roll up and support the objectives and the strategies, and then helping in review as well. We look for candid input, but also candid review, candid assessment as to how we're progressing or not progressing towards our stated objectives, our stated strategies, and work towards our broader vision and mission for the society. This will continue to happen throughout the summer, throughout the fall, and then at the annual meeting there will be a number of specific opportunities to connect not only to the strategic plans but to the grand challenge as well. So Ole, before we run out of time, just want to say thank you and maybe turn it to you for any closing comments to the town hall we had this afternoon.
Yeah, thank you. I'd like to emphasize what you just said about engagement. So over my professional career, I felt always very welcome by the societies to get engaged, and it was all in very well, I would say, very well guided steps. Headquarter staff really helps. It helped me a lot in becoming, as a young scientist, becoming an associate editor or starting even as a reviewer. So there's so many actions. I can only encourage you, read the society's news flash. And then I think there's some capacity left to participate in surveys and in elections. That is extremely important. The higher the participation in these events, in the surveys and in the elections, the better we can represent you. And then this new construct, discussion boards, it's great. And then you at home, if you are a faculty at a university, reach out, especially in this time of dictated isolation, reach out to your graduate students and communicate to them the ways how they can get engaged, how they can become members. And in the public sector, not everybody has the ability to go to Congress immediately, but you can do a lot of good things by going to local schools, by approaching the local politicians about water quality, about waste management, and about soil quality, urban soil. So there are so many ways. We just need to look left and right. So the Soil Science Society consists of creative members, and it is a huge pleasure to be in that society. And I'm not worried about our future, and I'm not worried that we will get out of the current crisis. We will get over it, stay involved, stay active, and be flexible. So thank you for everything that you are doing for our society. Thank you.
All right, thanks all. We'll talk to you soon.